I'm honored to introduce the resource person for the next session, Dr. Kranti Priya. She has a PhD degree in English language teaching, ELT, from the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. She is currently working as an assistant professor of English in the Department of English, KL University, Hyderabad, Telangana. She is a committed teacher who is passionate about teaching and engaging in research. Her areas of interest include language teaching, materials development, testing, and evaluation. Yes, she has conducted many workshops and has presented papers in national and international conferences. She has published research articles in journals and has book chapters.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Can you hear me? Is it audible? Yeah, let me continue. A major achievement till date includes coordinating a team of 14 resource persons for a teacher training project under the aegis of Sarva Siksha Abhiyan and State Government of Karnataka. It's our privilege to welcome you, ma'am. The topic of our presentation is writing an effective abstract. Over to Dr. Priya. Thank you. Sarva Siksha Abhiyan.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Hello. Am I audible now?
Ma'am, you are audible, but there's some disturbance in your audio.
Hello. Am I audible, ma'am? Okay. I would like to share the.
Ma'am, you are audible. Gayatri, ma'am, is my voice audible? Yes, ma'am, you are audible. There's some disturbance in your audio, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Is it okay now, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Fine now.
Hello. Is it okay now?
Yes, ma'am.
Can
Yes,
I share
ma'am.
PPT?
Yes, ma'am. It's fine now. Ma'am, are you able to hear me?
I think the audio is coming late. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello. Am I audible now, ma'am? Yeah,
Yes,
there
ma'am.
seems
You
to
are.
be a problem with my laptop, so I've logged in through my phone. Can I share my PPT with anyone here so that you can run the PPT and I can go from here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because I think somehow I found that I was talking, but you were responding later. So any chance you have? Can I share it on WhatsApp or anywhere, ma'am, so that you can run it from there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Can I give you my number?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
9629.
I'm really sorry that this is happening. Technical glitches.
That's okay, ma'am.
29
9629 01
01
81
81.
01.
Okay, I'll just share my PPT to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is
Ma'am,
it okay now, ma'am?
yes, ma'am. I'm downloading it.
Okay. You can run it from there, ma'am, and I'll.
Yes, I
Okay.
can do that. Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. If you can go full screen, I'll start my presentation.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
First of all, thank you for inviting me, and I'm really sorry that this technical glitch happened and I had to delay some 5 minutes. Really sorry for that, and I will right away go into the topic because we have wasted some time already. As I would like to give a small preview of an overview of the entire session. Can you just move to the next slide, ma'am? I'll talk about the points here. Yeah. So coming to the overview, I've included points like what is an abstract, purposes of an abstract, what abstract is not, how do I begin, like when we write an abstract, how do we start in the beginning, and what are the requirements to write an abstract and abstract structure, the 4 C's of abstract writing, which go according to theory. Writing process, the first draft that we make it, the editing part, and then revising it, and what do we do before finalizing, and how do we avoid common barriers and some writing tips. These are the things that I'll be covering when it comes to writing an effective abstract for, be it for journals or books or any conference. Okay, so am I audible and clear, sir? Can I continue? Yeah, okay. So we'll go to the next slide. What is an abstract? Yeah. So usually when we talk about an abstract, we generally hear people saying that it's a miniature version of a whole paper or a whole argument. And it's a short piece of technical writing designed to summarize either a longer piece of work, such as a research article, a book chapter, or a dissertation. Also, when we write our thesis, we do start with an abstract. Similarly, abstract is also assumed to be accurate, coherent, readable, concise, specific, and selective also. And it is self-contained in the sense that you don't need extra details or there is no reference to it, there are no tables in it. So it's a self-contained document. So all in all, an abstract can be defined as a very concise statement of a major elements of your research project, and it states the purpose, methods, and findings of your research project. This is what would be a sum up of all the definitions that are available. So I will go to the next part where I'll talk about purposes of an abstract. And yeah, so generally when we start talking about an abstract, we usually make sure that the readers may read nothing else with the abstract first, because when I want to read about an article or anything, I would definitely start with an abstract. I would not start with the entire article. So an abstract provides an overview of what an article is, or what a research article is, or what a dissertation. It provides a context for those who do not read the article, so that they can segregate or select what they want to read. It is also used by journals to assign reviewers, so that depending on the abstract only, they select the reviewers when it goes to a journal. And it is used by abstracting information services. This is majorly done for indexing and retrieving articles and so on in different journals. And it also helps the readers decide whether to read an article or not. It is they will finally decide after reading an article. Usually people tend to decide if it is important to me and my area. Is it relevant to what I want, what I do, and is it something that I need to read further? So this also provides readers a kind of a reminder for the reader what they have read. Like suppose someone reads an article, but an abstract is something like a glimpse where they understand if they have already covered that area, that particular research or not. So it kind of directs readers' attention to the highlights of the article. It's majorly focused on what is in the article. So the highlights of the entire paper or an argument or a research document presented are in the abstract itself. So before understanding what is an abstract or what goes into it and everything, I would like to talk about what is not an abstract, or what would not go into an abstract, or what it is not. Ma'am, I think you'll have to, yeah, okay. So definitely we should remember one thing, that abstract is not a substitute for an article, or it should not be cited or used as reference. Like maybe there is a proper argument present in an article, and the abstract also talks about something in a precise way, in a concise way, but you can't use it as a reference or anything. So it is not an substitute for an article, and not a summary after all for the entire article, and should be should present the main finding. Generally, I'll come to the structure of the article where I'll talk about should present the main finding, what I mean by that now. And it also does not contain enough information for a critical evaluation of the research. We cannot base an abstract to decide what argument is presented in a complete paper or a research article. It is not fully peer reviewed. Only up to 60% are never followed by complete scientific articles. So it is not reviewed. Peer review does not include only the article. So an article is something that we submit prior to writing the paper. So it does not fall into the peer review process also. Then we will move to one more important point, which is abstract versus introduction. There seems to be, when I talk about abstract or introduction to many other colleagues or my research scholars or any other student doing a PhD, the basic confusion lies between what is an abstract and what is an introduction. People tend to write the same thing in the abstract and again follow the same thing again in the introduction part. Whereas there is a clear distinction between what an abstract can be and what an introduction can be. For an abstract, it mostly highlights two major things which I've mentioned here. One is novelty. Novelty in terms of work, in terms of what research is conducted, what is newness in the research that you have conducted, and also in terms of contribution to the area or contribution to the conference that you are trying to write an abstract to, contribution to the journal that you're writing to, or even if you're writing an article for a book also, what is your contribution to the book? So it generally focuses on newness and contribution to a certain area. So which is absolutely different from what an introduction can be. Introduction could be something that you start the entire paper with, and there you talk about the area that you're focusing on, the research conducted by you, or what is done in this particular study, or what is the methodology followed to write the paper, or to see the study that is conducted and all that. And also you talk about the findings and it. So these are also indicated in the abstract, but the abstract majorly focuses on the newness of the paper and also the contribution to the area. So this distinction, if you can identify while writing that you write an abstract, you also highlight these 2 points. There are more chances of accepting or getting accepted, and that is where the abstract class actually happens. So this is one small distinction I wanted to mention, so I will put it this. Please observe, if you can read certain journal articles, you'll understand that abstracts generally talk about what is the contribution as a whole, whereas introduction is about the paper, which goes on later on. The sections that are just divided into the findings that it is going to present with all that. Similarly, when we start writing an abstract, I think we'll move to the next slide because I think it's about how I begin. Yeah. So when we start about writing an abstract, the major things that we need to remember where we struggle is how do I begin? How do I even start writing an abstract? So for that, I think what I would only talk from my own experience. So what I would generally do is I would definitely remember the deadline that is given for an abstract. So please remember who could be the publisher deadline or the co-author deadline or a supervisor deadline. But once you know this is the time period to write a abstract, you definitely have to plan in advance. Also, there is something called brief, or brief could also be seen as the framework that you are going to use to write the abstract, meaning the word limit or the format that you adapt for it, or the style that you would write to. Style could be, sometimes it could be a passive voice or an active voice is what many people could debate when it comes to style, or maybe the way you put an argument in, but it's not just that. It also talks about which method of research that you're talking about, which area you're referring to, that also falls into style. And coming to format, I'll definitely talk about format in the next couple of slides because I'll be talking about what are the requirements of an abstract. And word limit, generally, it is very difficult to stick to word limit. So I will brief on how you can stick to word limit also. So this is basically, brief is generally about the framework, the structure of the abstract that I would like to talk in the next slide maybe. And the third part that we need to remember when we write an audience or when we start to write an audience that we need to keep in mind is the audience also. So the audience is one factor that you need to understand when you write an abstract. In general, when you write an abstract, you need to understand, is it meant for professional peers, or if it is if it's for an audience that are multidisciplinary, if it is an audience that is a layman. So you need to identify, also understand what audience are you writing an abstract for or a full paper for, based on which your abstract will change. So it could be professional peers most cases because we tend to publish in journals that are in our area, or it can also be multidisciplinary nature. So apart from these three, one more factor that you need to remember when you start an abstract is, or when you begin to write an abstract is the message that you want to convey. So new results from an experiment or a new analysis of some historical document is being presented, or maybe a philosophical argument is being done, a theoretical work is being discussed, an empirical study is examined. Whatever you do, what is the message that you're trying to give? Are you keeping the results of an experiment or an analysis of a document or a historical document, something like that? So you need to understand what is the message that I'm trying to convey to my audience or the readers that I have. So these 4 points, if you can identify, keep in mind before you write an abstract, before you begin an abstract, like the deadline, the format and the style, the audience and the message you want to convey, I think you would definitely go in the right way before you start the abstract. Okay. And apart from this one, can you move to the next slide, ma'am? I think I would start talking about requirements anyway. So coming to abstract requirements, we usually have, this is something that most of the journals, or if you're writing for a conference also, this is what will be the limit that is given. Usually it is between 200 to 350 words, which is quite difficult to achieve because we tend to write bigger sentences or longer abstracts, and to cut them into 250 or 200 words is something really difficult. So we usually need to remember requirement of any abstract would not go beyond 350, and it would start somewhere around 200. And it should contain the following sections, like any abstract would start with a title, obviously, which would also be the title of the paper that you would eventually write into. So I'll talk about how to build up the title and what goes into the next sections also. So when you talk about writing a abstract, you start with the title, and also the structure goes this way. First the title, and then the author. If it is multiple authors, you have author, co-author, and so on. And also type of contribution, presentation, meaning like in the sense, if you're contributing to a presentation, if you're contributing to a poster, or maybe some kind of document. So in that case, you need to mention what kind of contribution are you trying to make here. So these are the general structures that go into writing an abstract. So here I would like to talk about, when I talk about title, we'll move to the next slide, we'll talk about title. Yeah, okay. So when we talk about abstract structure and title, the first thing that comes to mind is creating a title itself. So while creating a title, in most of cases, what happens is we generally tend to pick up the most important words in our paper and then go with the title. We then go with the most important content words and then frame our title. So while creating a title, the things that we need to remember are first is clarity. A title can't be too ambiguous or too confusing for a reader. It has to be clear. So clarity is the first and foremost thing. And maybe we can address 4 questions when it comes to creating a title. Where the first question could be, what are you researching? Maybe the question that your title needs to answer is, what are you researching? So that when you read the title itself, it goes deep into what area you are researching. And then the second question that you could definitely answer is, what keywords are necessary for your entire paper? Like, what are the keywords that you are putting after the abstract also? And what are the most important words in your research paper? So these would go into the title. So second could be the keywords, and then third could be, how are you researching it? In what method are you using? So is it an empirical study of something? So you can mention the word there. Is it a documentary? Or whatever you are doing, you can mention in terms of how are you researching. It can also be included into the title of the abstract. And fourth question that you generally need to think about is, will putting the method in the title enhance it? Like, if you want to put the method that you have adapted, research method that you have adapted in the paper or the study that you're presenting, if is it enhancing the title, then you can also include a case study. You generally give a colon and write a case study. So if you want to mention that, you can also mention and enhance the the title of the abstract. So 4 questions, definitely. First one is, what are you researching? Second one is, what keywords are necessary? Third is, how you are researching it? And fourth, what will putting a research method into the title enhance? If you can remember these 4 things while designing your title, I think your title can be a very proper one, a very clear one. So similarly, when you move to aim of your research, once you are clear with your abstract title, maybe you move on to talking about the aim of your research and what your research method is, and then your findings and so on. This is what you would do in your abstract anyway. So coming to aim of your research, I think you would definitely would start or would venture to start with explaining the primary aim or the purpose of the study that goes into the abstract. That is what is prominently to be made to be visible in an abstract. Similarly, what is that you are going to do in the paper also is what you need to highlight here. So maybe we would start with an introduction, but the major thing that you need to focus here is primary aim and the purpose of the study. And the second point is, what are you going to do in the paper? So if you can bring these 2 elements in the abstract, it is a proper, clear picture of what your paper is going to be. What is your next part that you would like to focus on should be, what is your research method? Like, briefly explain your method. What kind of methods are you using? Is it a qualitative study, or what kind of theoretical methodology that you're adapting for the entire paper? Yeah. There is some noise. Am I clear? Like, I hope.
There is a lot of noise, and some people have actually switched on their mics.
Yeah. I think there's some other.
Dear participants, kindly mute your microphones.
Santhi Kumar, may kindly this off his mic.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sendil sir, could you mute your microphone? Yeah, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. So as I was saying, after aim of your research is clearly explicitly mentioned, maybe you can focus on your research method and then go on to mentioning current findings and expected contribution. Here in the abstract itself, you can talk about your findings in a brief way, not talk at length, but maybe in a few 1 or 2 sentences, and also what contribution do you expect to make to the entire research area, or if you're writing it for a journal, to the journal, or if it's a conference also, you can mention that. So these things are the major things that when you start structuring your abstract, these are the things that you need to keep in mind while creating a title, and aim of your research and research method, and then findings and contribution. If you can address these 4 things in your abstract, I think it would be a good one to go forward. If we'll move to the next slide again. It'll be an abstract structure. Yeah. So coming to the abstract structure, where I talked about including all 4 elements in the previous slide, but here I will talk about what goes into the actual abstract. So first one is title and author information, which I have already mentioned about. The second one would be introduction. Introduction in an abstract, you won't have separate paragraphs or anything in an abstract, but would definitely divide an abstract into 4 parts, being 1, introduction, 2, materials and methods, 3, results, and 4, discussion. Discussion is not conclusion. Again, it's only a discussion about your contribution and everything. So coming to our introduction, we generally address the question why when we talk about introduction. Introduction does not mean you talk about, suppose there is a topic like evaluation. So you don't talk about evaluation is so and so, and you don't define terms and everything in an abstract. You can simply go about talking about why is this research so important or anything. So you generally start an introduction addressing the question why, and you have to come to define the purpose and scope of study. That is the question itself. So you address the purpose and the scope of the study. The introduction part is absolutely acceptable, and instead of going about talking or introducing or defining terms as such. Similarly, the second part where you talk about materials and methods, it kind of addresses the question how, and it describes the materials and methods used in your research. It has to focus on what you have done as part of your research or as part of your study, and then you highlight those areas only. The third part of an abstract will generally focus on the what aspect, which is the result, where you summarize what you have done, where you analyze data or what you have actually done to analyze data. You summarize the results, kind of talk about a little bit of results or the findings that you have done or you have found in your research. And the fourth part is the discussion parts, where you address the question, so what? This is majorly the most important part of the abstract, where you kind of link the entire argument to a bigger study, a bigger area. So you state the conclusions and their implications, and then talk about how this article or this paper actually contributes to the entire area of research. So these 4 things, these 4 could be defined as parts of an abstract: the introduction, which is why; the materials and methods, how; results, which is what; and then discussion is so what. So when you address so what, make sure you're including things that actually bring meaning to what kind of work you've done and how it is important for everyone to read or find out about or go and explore. Okay, so this is the major structure of how an abstract is done. And anyway, on top of that, it would definitely have the title and the author information. So we'll move to the next slide where I'll show the why, how, and so what is given there. I think, yeah. So here the how, why part talks about the reason behind the research being done. So you're going to address the rationale behind it. The how part talks about the basic approach and methodology, usually in one sentence. You don't go beyond using 2-3 sentences for each of them because that will take the abstract longer. So if you're talking about how, you could say the basic approach and the methodology adopted for the study, so and so. And coming to the what part, the main findings, results in a very few sentences again. What are your findings and what conclusions do you have based on your findings? And the final one, the so what is like a conclusion in abstract, but it is brief and also a broad implication of the study to the area of the study is to be established here. You have to talk about how your implications are linked to the major study or the major area that you're working on. So if you can address all these 4, it will be the final structure that I will talk about. So we'll move on to the next one. If possible, there is a small sample I have. Yeah, this is, yeah, you can click on, yeah. So these are the 4 parts I was talking about. The how, why would be the reason behind research being done. How was basic approach and methodology used? And usually in one sentence is what I was saying. And then the main findings also, the view verify the synthesis. And finally, the so what will be broad implication of your study to the major area that you're working in. Okay, these 4 are the elements. We'll go to the. So in this one, if you see, I'll give a moment for you to just go through this article, this abstract. And I've actually highlighted the colors so that you could understand what is the introduction or the general statement. The second part, again, third part and fourth part. There is also one extra part that is included here, meaning I've divided one part into 2 again here so that it could be clear. So the first introduction is the statement. And I've also given small section on the problem that you're addressing, which is the area that you're focusing on. Then you're trying to solve a problem. So that is where you're bringing your data analysis or whatever you have the approach or the method that you have adopted all. Then solution is where you're talking about your findings and everything. Okay, and the general statement again, the last one where you kind of conclude again, or not conclusion as a whole, but as how it is applicable
Social
to.
private networking has become an increasingly important component
Hello? Yeah.
of the communication.
I think there's again someone. Yeah, Kumari. Miss Kumari, can you
Sorry,
please?
sorry, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. I was
Okay.
just reading. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, it's okay. So just go through this one. You'll understand how each of them actually go. First is introduction, second the problem, third the how to solve the problem, solution, and again, I didn't want to say conclusion, so again I mentioned it as just a statement, or you can call it conclusion if you want. Yeah, just take a look so that you understand the language. The first part is introducing what EPN is. Okay. And the second part, if you see the red part, it's talking about the problem that is going on in this. The third one, how to address the problem. What is the research adapted here? What is the methodology taken up here to address that particular problem? The gray part is the solution, meaning the findings of the problem. The fourth one, the fifth one, last one, orange part, is where the structure or what is discussed in the paper and how it is contributing to the media research is discussed here. This is approximately 200 to 250 words of abstract. And if you see when you write an abstract also, if you can start with a general statement and then go with the problem and then go with solution, how you're planning to solve it, and then how the solution. You can divide your abstract into 4 to 5 categories. It will be really a proper structured abstract that we will give. In fact, when it comes to the green and the gray part, you can also have sub points, like you can say the methods adopted were 1, so and so, 2, so and so, or A, B, C. You can also give points here. So this is how you could go with the abstract. Okay, shall I move to the next slide, or are you still reading this? I think I'll go to the next slide. If we have time in the end, because I think we started a little late, I'll come back to this slide again. Yeah. So coming to the 4 C's of writing an abstract, I would go a little theoretical aspect of writing an abstract, which I found in a book which was very interesting. There are 4 C's of writing an abstract. The first one is complete, where your abstract needs to be complete and it needs to cover the major parts of a project or a case study or a research argument that you're presenting. So complete coverage of all major parts that your work has done. This should be also part of your abstract. It should be concise, meaning it contains no extra words or unnecessary information or no unnecessary details which go into an abstract. Maybe you want to give a few examples, a few extra references that you want to give, or refer to some other work that can be done in the full paper, but an abstract needs to be properly concise because it can't afford to go beyond a word limit also. Third C would be clear, where your abstract needs to be readable, it should be well organized, and it should be jargon led, but it does not mean that you bring in too many words that are specifically, you can write it in a very normal way also. So it should be readable and well organized is what you need to remember when it comes to clear. And the fourth C is cohesive, where it flows. There is a flow of structure. Like even if you're dividing abstract into 4 parts, introduction, and then all the 4 parts that I was talking about, even then there needs to be a flow between a smooth flow between all the parts, and it needs to be cohesive in the way it is presented. Okay, and I will move on to writing process. I think the next one, yeah. Okay. So coming to the writing process, this is where I would like to discuss for at least 5 more minutes because I am running out of time. I'm also checking that I have till the evening. Yeah, so coming to the writing process, I think that we have, when I talk about writing abstract, the first draft is something that we need to talk about. And usually the first draft is not the one that you would submit. So you would definitely edit and revise also. So usually when someone writes an abstract, the first draft could be either editing a free flow. So you just jot down all your thoughts, all your points that you want to say and what you want to include into a paper, or you type it down. And it should be a free flow of whatever you feel should go into an abstract. Maybe you'll start writing something with a free flow and you end up writing 400 to 500 words. You can edit it later. You can say it later. You can cut short that later and make it into a proper abstract. So one method is where you start writing freely. There is no word limit in your mind right away, but you write in such a way that every point, everything that comes to your mind is put onto paper. And then after you do that, there's a free flow. Then you start editing it and making it the proper abstract, which fits into the format or size that is required or mentioned by a journal or anything. So similarly, you can, if you're going for a free flow, that is one where you can cut paste also. The second one is actually cut paste, where you already have a full paper, where you already have a document or a research is already conducted and you have a certain amount of literature or every literature review done, everything is done. So from there, you can actually pick in parts of it. You can take some part of the introduction, some part of the theoretical framework or the research methodology adopted, some parts from findings or conclusions that you have, and some parts from the final contribution that you have, your paper is giving. These can be picked from the whole and cut from there and then pasted it into one part, and there is your abstract again. So this is also one way of doing it. Some people would, most of them would go with the free flow where they write freely and then edit and make it short. The second one would generally happen when you already make a report or you already write a paper for some purpose, and then you have a paper, so you write an abstract of it from the paper. The second part is where you cut and paste and where from the full paper. The third one is one thought, one sentence, which is usually you have a idea that pops into your mind, and then you use that idea, you write it down, you make a sentence, and then you understand, okay, this is a problem that needs to be addressed, and you write it some other time, and you slowly build an abstract one after the other. It's not a free flow of ideas that go at one time. You observe something, if you understand something, you're reading something, you add one by one, and then you build your abstract. So three ways are the ways, like these three are the ways that you could go with the first draft. But this is generally the first draft only I'm talking about. The second one would be editing, where you use abbreviations, like you don't use. The second part, edit part, is mostly focusing on limiting the abstract into a word count that you are supposed to stick to. So I'm going to talk about mostly editing it in terms of word limit and also in terms of idea, the format also. So first way, how to reduce word coming to the word limit could be using abbreviations, like instead of using ELT, English language teaching, you could go with something called ELT. Similarly, using numbers where you don't write 300 but write 300. Using plurals to eliminate articles. Like using plurals in the sense, suppose if I want to say a sentence where it is a test was performed, if I'm using this sentence, it is 4 words, a test was performed. Instead of that, I can go to plural and say tests were performed. So TESTS, tests were performed. If you go to a plural, so you're eliminating an article there. So trust me, when you write an serious abstract, the word count is very important. So you can't have even sometimes I would not prefer to go beyond like not even a word or two also beyond the word limit. But some journals don't accept right away. So you could use plurals also. Use adjectival clause, like for example, the report that was submitted. If you have a sentence like the report that was submitted by the committee or something like that, instead of that, you can simply shift the sentence and say the submitted report. So that way you're cutting down 2 to 3 words right away. So you need to be precise on language use, especially when it comes to an abstract, because your word limit is very less, but you have a lot to say in abstract. You have a lot to convey in an abstract to show that your paper is worthy reading. So that is a worthy printing also, for publishing and printing for that matter. So these are ways that you can edit in terms of word count. And also, I actually have a sample after this. If you can just go to the next slide. Yeah. If you don't mind, can you tell me how much time I have so that I can go either briefly or deeply with this and the next slide? Do we have till 8 o'clock only?
It's still 8:30, ma'am. So we have 30 minutes left. Yeah.
We have time? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay. So I will try to take, I'll go a little deeper onto this one. Thank you. I think this is very small for you to read. Yeah. Okay, better now. So this is one abstract view abstract that is written here. And I have another slide after this, which actually mentions the word limit. This is around 553 words. I'm sure most of you, all of you must have read or watched Harry Potter. So I picked this one because I thought it'll be a little interesting. So this is about unemployment in the sorcery world. So this is an abstract structure to talk about introduction, and it has after introduction it gives a proper introduction. It's not brief also, it is properly structured. The introduction part, the first paragraph is actually introduction, and once you have introduction you also have the details of it, meaning the problem that is there, which would talk about the material or method that is there. If you see, but just go through it. I'll give you time to read this one. The second one is the problem, and third and fourth are like the results or the study or the addressing the problem, so a solution for the problem and everything. And the last paragraph again is like a conclusion. So just go through this. This is a 553 words one. If I had more time, I would have asked you to do like try doing this, but we'll try to see it and learn it from them. So if you see the first part, this is the maximum visible for you. Are you able to read this? Yeah, okay, thank you. So unemployment, just go through it. I don't want you to go sentence by sentence. You can go just skim through it once. Put 2 minutes on this one. Maybe 2 minutes will be enough. I hope it is clear on how to structure it. Till I move to the next one. This is done. So the second part, if you see, the exact thing that is written above is again short. Like I've completely condensed it to 200 words here. So this again has all the four components: the introduction, the problem, the method used to address the problem, the solution, and the conclusion. Everything is again addressed here. But this is the shorter version of that and more precise, if you can see, and it's more concise, meaning I've taken away the unnecessary points, and this has come to 200 words. If you can compare the earlier one, it's exactly the same, but this is more clear. This is more clear in the sense it is in the first few sentences, you'll understand what is the area, what is the point that it has been trying to convey, or what is it that is trying to give in the full paper. The full paper comes to a proper picture. One should read this one than the previous one. The previous one is more engaging and confusing because it's trying to present more details than necessary. In an abstract, you would not go to that many details. In an abstract, you would stick to the main elements, introduction part, just a brief on what you're trying to see, the area directly. Don't go around and say, I've seen people write quotes here, use quotes also, according to Noonan, according to Jameson, this is how it is. So don't start with quotes or defining terms and everything in a abstract. You can directly go into the point or the argument that you are trying to make, or what is the actual research agenda you're trying to address here, and then move on to what is the problem that you're trying to identify or address here, and then how are you, what are the steps or methods that you're adapting to address that problem, or what kind of work did you do to address that problem, and what are your findings, what are the results of what you've done. All that will go in that sequence, and then you'll finally come to a conclusion where we talk about how this paper is going to be useful in understanding students, or in addressing something, or in kind of bridging a gap between two things or something like that. So that is how you would actually build it. Instead of going around, you would actually go deep, straight to 4 points and address those 4 points. In fact, this is the last section that you can actually, as I was telling you, can divide it into points again, where you say, so this paper is trying to do A is address so and so, B, fill the gap between these two elements, C is so and so, and D. You can also divide into points and talk about how the paper is going to be useful for the reader, for the journal, for the area of study, or even if it's a book, the book and everything. So your division of things into 4 categories for the entire article, entire abstract, which is in the article again, which is presented in detail in the article, and also your division of each point again, the conclusion part or any part of even the methodology part, if you take in the middle, how are you dividing it, how are you mentioning the points here? That can be clearly presented. That would be a very proper abstract to submit. So if required, we'll come to these 2 slides if we have time, so that you can compare the above one and this one. And I will also highlight, I'll try to highlight it. But before that, I would like to finish my slides that I have. Okay, we'll go to the next slide here. So once you are clear about the stages that I've mentioned, you have written all 4 categories, you've written an entire abstract. Before finalizing it, before saying that this is done for me and I'm going to send it to the publisher or the journal, you can actually follow a few things in here. Okay, first thing, follow instructions is instructions given by the publisher or the person who's organizing the conference or a book author. So if you're sending an abstract, try to go and check if the instructions given by these people fit your abstract or not. Are the instructions clearly followed, or is anything missing in the abstract? Second, include headings exactly stated as stated in the instructions, or the template also. Sometimes the template is also given. You have a certain way of writing the author's name, the designation comes next, the email ID next. So you have to follow the template. So make sure you include headings exactly as stated by the person that you are trying to send the abstract to, and you follow the instructions and template that is given exactly in that way only. Third one, use short, clear sentences. It is like one idea per sentence only. This is something more, I don't know, even I used to have this problem, and I think many people have this problem. We tend to write longer sentences when we want to make it a short and crisp one. So instead of going to long sentences, try to make very short and clear sentences, and keep one idea per sentence. Don't go with and go into or use semicolons too often and go into longer or remember. And also limit your abstract to the word count or character count requirement. Sometimes certain journals even include the space that you use. So it's not just the words, also the character. So space is also counted in certain journals, which is really a problem. So try to look at the word count that they are asking you to stay in, and try not to exceed even with five words or 6 words also. Sometimes we feel it is okay and we send, but some journals are very strict with the word count. So try to limit your abstract to the word count that is mentioned. If possible, get a help from a mentor. Could be a colleague also, could be a peer, could be one of your friends or your supervisor or whoever it is. Try to show your abstract one time to another person, that so that they kind of find out the small errors that you didn't even notice or anything. So make revision based on what feedback they give you again, and make sure that you incorporate those suggestions in your abstract. Have others read your draft. This does not mean that you give it to a professional only or someone who's an expert in your area. It can be another subject person also. Just give your draft to them so that just go through it, and depending on that, maybe you'll find certain technical errors can be there, typographical errors can be there, spelling, grammatical, even a full stop can be sometimes missed. Like the last sentence may not have a full stop. So these things can be observed by a third eye. So try to give it to the other person instead of you and someone who's already helping, or a co-author also. Sometimes it happens that we kind of not looking to these things. And after talking about these things, I would like to go to barriers. I think after this slide, can you just, common barriers. So when we talk about abstracts, the usual barriers or the usual problems that we have in terms of writing an abstract, or when you talk about an abstract is already being sent. And the reasons that it would be rejected are as like, I'll list a few things that I would remember. The first one is too poor presentation. Maybe my abstract would not be accepted for the basic reason that how I have presented my argument is not clear. I did not mention the structure is not clear in terms of how I would do, or the presentation of my idea into sentences is not clear. So first thing is slow pause presentation. And if the discussion is also weak, like what you are trying to convey, what you're trying to say, if it is not clearly mentioned, it is not structured in a way, and if the discussion itself looks weak in terms of, not in terms of just language, in terms of the research method adopted, or the results that you're talking about, or the contribution you're talking about. If the discussion is itself weak, then your abstract can be rejected. So you need to give very precise, very clear about what you want to say, and being simple is sometimes appreciated. And also lack of originality. Don't try to bring in what others said in another research conducted there, or this is similar to the work done there. Don't talk about what is already done, or talk about what is innovative in your research, or what is innovative in your research article that you're going to try to give. So talk about originality, talk about novelty in your article, and then talk about what is new that a reader would find if they go through the entire paper that you're writing. Because this abstract is like trying to bring an audience where they feel the paper is like it is value for their time. Also, don't see that your methods that you used in your research are strong enough. I mean to say the research methods. And in fact, in terms of research, if there is a research article that you're sending to a journal or a book, also poor methods are also one reason that mostly articles are kind of rejected. Also, inappropriate or not very clear statistical analysis. If the data is not analyzed properly, if the findings are not clear, then also a paper can be rejected. So you need to talk about this also in an abstract where you state the findings, however, do this. My findings are trying to highlight this. I think the findings of the data are useful in bridging this gap. So you're going to tell what your findings are trying to do, how useful are they for a person who reads your paper. Also, depending on this, again, inadequate results, if your results of the entire study that you have conducted are not clear or not proper, then people will not venture on reading or not even venture on publishing your paper. So try to make sure that your presentation is clear, your discussion is strong enough, there is originality in your paper, your methods adopted, research methods adopted are very strong, and your analysis of your results and your result presentation, presenting how your results are also clearly given there. There is no doubt or ambiguity in how you give your results. So it should be very clearly stated. So these are common problems that people face when it comes to publishing or writing an abstract and getting it accepted. These are the reasons anyone would generally reject an abstract. So I'll move to the last but ones. I think this is the last slide probably. So some writing tips I would want to end on tips only. I would want to give a few tips. First of all, I think the most important thing, or what actually helped me, is reading published manuscripts or abstracts. Read them carefully. Observe abstracts from major journals in your area and focus on all the details that an abstract would include. So try to pick on abstracts from different journals and make sure you are reading each abstract carefully and looking into the details that each abstract tries to present. Also look at the format that they have used and how they present an argument so easily and so simply. Okay, and it should be the language that is used, and the word count also matters, but try to look into aspects of research that they are trying to highlight. Also read manuscripts from different journals, and majorly the ones which are in your area. That is the first tip I would give, because that is what actually helped me, or even my colleagues or my research scholars that I have. That is something that I've observed that makes a drastic difference in how you write an abstract, because you were reading many abstracts, or you were analyzing different types of abstracts. And don't stick to your area abstracts only. Try to read in science, in other areas also, in other subjects as well, because each of them have their own way of presenting. And something innovative can be appealing to you also. You can use their method as well. Okay, also second tip in terms of tips, I would say you can get help from your mentors or colleagues. Don't shy away in asking anyone. Please do ask, write an abstract, take help. Or even if you have an idea that you want to turn into an abstract, discuss with someone in your area, so that there is a certain path that you go through. You don't deviate your idea or don't go into unnecessary detail. There is something that can be done where if you discuss with someone, there is definitely a chance that you will stick to the root of it and you kind of don't deviate from what you want to say. So the other person would definitely tell you where they are getting confused or where it is more clear. So try to engage into professional discussions with your colleagues and tutors. Write only, also while you write, when you discuss about this and you write it down, try to write only one thought at a time. Don't write multiple ideas into one paper. Don't push too many things into one paper or one abstract for that matter. So try to write one thought or one idea, one method, one research idea that you have into one abstract. Don't cloud your abstract with too many things that you want to do as part of your research or as part of your study. And try to eliminate unnecessary words when you're writing. Don't focus more on vocabulary or fancy words or words that are more appealing in terms of the way they're pronounced or spelled. So don't go into word play. Try to be simple in the way you present an abstract. Use also there is a saying that people tend to use passive voice in an abstract instead of passive. Stick to active voice because it is more clear. Instead of saying the student's was, and you simply say that the student this was done to the student. So you can go with an active voice instead of a passive voice, which would be more appreciated by an abstract reader. Also, it would be more clear and precise. Also, one more thing that generally goes wrong in an abstract is usage of verb tense, which kind of tends to go into a past tense and then comes back to a present tense. So stick to one tense. Usually the present is appreciated to go with that one only. And be consistent and be correct in whatever you're trying to say. This is what I would say in terms of writing text and all. So yeah, if I think it's already 8 to 10. I would like to hear, yeah. So anything, if you want me to repeat or show again, like in the previous clouded slide, like we have 1, 2 slides which are overly written, the abstract sample is given there. If you want to see that, I'll take you back there, but I would like to talk to the audience first. I don't know if it is clear. Yeah.
Dear participants, it's time for discussion. If you have any questions, you can ask now. Participants, you can. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Lala Khalid from Kashmir.
Hello.
Wonderful
Hello,
presentation. We are highly thankful to you, ma'am.
it's an honor.
You know what you talked about use of tenses when you write
Yes,
an abstract. Can you, ma'am, please talk about it
yeah.
again?
Usually,
ma'am.
yes, ma'am, I'll talk about that. Usually, when we talk about a paper or we're talking about an abstract and referring to a paper, we tend to go to past tense. We tend to say the study conducted was this and that, and the results showed the students were. So we go to past tense when we talk about that. Instead, you can stick to present tense. Results show that the students were able to perform. Instead of past tense, you go to present tense and talk about the entire abstract can be stuck to only one present tense. What I found in many abstracts that I get or I kind of revise is they start with present tense, but they go into past tense in the middle and again come back to future tense or something like that. So instead of going from one tense to another, we can stick to one present tense only, simple present, and write an abstract. Try to do that. If you see, if you observe certain journals, you will understand everything is from a third person perspective. The abstract is presented from a third person perspective, and the entire tense will be in present simple only instead of going over a past tense or a future tense. So if you can practice that or try to read a couple of articles that do this, you'll understand how the tense play is being done so that the reader, when they read 200 words in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, they do not find difficulty in switching tenses. So the major reason there is to make it more clear and keep it in a simple format as possible so that the reader gets the 200-word abstract at one go. They don't have to take more time or go back and up in the abstract. That is the reason we generally say stick to one tense and preferably the present tense. if you can use past tense if the study is a longitudinal study or conducted some time ago, but you can stick to present if there's an analysis done right now, or it's a book or anything that you're doing right. I hope that answers the question. I'm not sure. Is it okay, ma'am? Was I audible? I got a little doubt now.
Yes, ma'am, you were audible.
Okay, okay.
Any other question? Ma'am, I have a question. We
Yeah.
generally write the abstract just to get a rough idea at the beginning of our dissertation or article, whatever it is. And it is also said that we have to definitely revise it once we finish our article or our dissertation. What is your opinion on this, ma'am? So
Yeah.
I heard that abstract is the last thing that we actually write before we finalize the title, after everything is over. Is it true, ma'am?
Yeah, I think this applies for dissertation, definitely, because once you start with an abstract, in fact, I did not even write my dissertation, my abstract, till I finished my entire thesis. It was in the end that I wrote. Because once you finish your entire dissertation, that is where you get a clarity on what your argument is and what your findings are, and everything comes to place in the end on. But when it comes to writing an abstract for a conference or a publisher or say a book author, they tell you the field, they tell you the area or the study that they are conducting, or the book is about so and so. And if it's a conference also, the theme is already disclosed. So you try to send an abstract to a conference by writing your random thoughts or what you would like to discuss about. So you write a random one and you develop that into a proper abstract and then send them. Only after they accept the abstract, they say, okay, this idea seems to be very interesting. I would like to include your paper into my conference. Then only you start building on the conference paper. This is very rare that we already write a paper. We do that if it is in our research area. We do write and keep it ready, but it is very rare that the exact theme is also represented in the conference, right? So generally, when you write to conferences and journals, we stick to writing the abstract first and then send. And if accepted, we try to build it into an argument, and whatever we have done, we try to put it in a proper format. And that is the reason we have time also. After the abstract, we have 1 month or 2 months to finish the paper again. So it
But
changes
is
according to where you're sending.
Yeah, ma'am. But is it okay when we send the full paper? Is it okay to revise our abstract?
Definitely. If the abstract is already done publishing in the proceedings, sometimes we have conferences that publish the proceedings. You can definitely make a request to the convener or the editor of the place that your full paper is being published. Because once you're done with your presentation, there are instances where the entire paper is done, the PPT is also done. You go and present, and then you get a certain amount of feedback from the audience, and you feel that, oh, I need to look into this matter. I better include this into my paper. Similarly, once you present your entire paper, you come back after the discussion with colleagues and all, you understand, okay, this needs to be revised, this needs to be minimized, this needs to be emphasized, and you change the argument sometimes in the paper, then maybe you have to revise your abstract also, because abstract is like a glimpse of the entire paper. Once it is published, they're going to look at it as a whole, the abstract of the paper there. The first one that you send is for the presentation and acceptance of the idea. The second one that you publish is mostly an entire piece together. So definitely you have to revise if there is any type of change, or even if you feel it was weak earlier but you want to make it stronger, definitely yes. I would suggest you do that. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So there are no questions. Then we can
Wind up. Yes.
I hope it was clear that I didn't get questions. It's not the other case where I didn't understand anything and I didn't get questions. It was okay. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
I take this opportunity to thank Professor Dr. Kranti Priya for sharing her knowledge on writing an effective abstract. Ma'am, thank you for teaching us how to write an abstract in a clear and concise manner. The practicality in your presentation made us understand things better. Thank you for throwing light on the syntax structure and grammar employed in the abstract, the difference between an abstract and an introduction, and the overall requirements of an effective abstract. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your detailed presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this and giving me an opportunity to discuss this. Thanks a lot.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I invite Ms. V. Gayatri to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Mona Priya. I'm very much delighted to propose the vote of thanks for today's sessions. I would like to express my thanks to Dr. Sharif Ismail for the wonderful session on serendipity in research. We are fortunate enough to gain treasure in the form of knowledge sharing. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable time. I would like to convey my sincere thanks to Dr. Kranti Priya for the informative session on writing an effective abstract. The session made us aware about the nuances of writing abstract. Though most of us might have written abstracts for our research papers, this session gave an opportunity to learn about the fine-tuning to create proper and perfect abstracts. There is a saying, publish or perish. Madam's concluding remarks, work, finish and publish, gave a boost to engage ourselves for our scholarly publications. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your informative session. My sincere thanks to Dr. Regin Silvest and the organizing committee for lending a supportive hand by collaborating with us to organize the International One Week FTP. I register my thanks to Ms. N. Uma Mageshwari and Dr. Saroj Singh for their presence today. My heartfelt thanks to the co-convener, Ms. Mohana Priya, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Shift 1, Sachin Jain College, the heads and the faculty members of both the shifts for their efforts to kickstart the FDP successfully. I'd like to express my thanks to all the participants joined us today. I appeal to them to continue participating in the coming days too and reap the fruit. Looking forward to fruitful sessions. Thank you.